Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be talking about specifically what it means to have your Mercury in Leo or Mercury in the 5th house. My name is Brandon, and this is an astrology video here. This is part of a larger series that I have been doing where there are going to be planets in houses and planets in signs. And so you're going to see all of the different Leo videos this week, as well as anything prior to that in the playlist down below. And anything after Leo, so Virgo, Libra, so on and so forth, will all be in the playlist down below as those seasons come out. So this video is going to be about if you have your Mercury in Leo or Mercury in the 5th house. If you are brand new to astrology and don't know what any of these things mean, and you don't know what your birth chart is, anything like that, feel free to check down below. There's going to be a link in the description where you can kind of check out and see specifically what your Mercury placement is, if it's in Leo, if it's in the 5th house, those sorts of things, so on and so forth. So, without further ado, we're going to talk about a little bit about what Mercury means within astrology, and then we're going to go into Mercury in Leo and Mercury in the 5th house. And those are timestamps down below, so feel free to check out down below if you have just Mercury in Leo or just Mercury in the 5th house. So, looking forward to it, and I'll see you guys in the next part. We talk about just Mercury and astrology. Okay, so we have Mercury in astrology, and Mercury in astrology is a very nimble, very adaptable planet. It tends to kind of take on the effects of whatever it is doing within the chart. So if Mercury is with the Sun, if Mercury is an aspect to Venus, Mars, Pluto, Saturn, Jupiter, all those things, it's going to kind of layer itself within those themes. So depending upon the Mercury placement by house and sign, you're going to see kind of how Mercury is really nimble and really kind of trying to adapt and kind of communicate and see the world and understand the world through that specific Mercury placement and that specific Mercury aspects and house and things like that. So when it comes to Mercury, you do want to look to see whether it's retrograde or not. And if you have a retrograde Mercury, there is a lot of stories there that need to be kind of unboxed, and learning about how to filter through information, understand how to communicate things more clearly or go back on things. And then Mercury, you want to look to see as well as what that ruler is for that sign. So if you, for example, if you have your Mercury in Aries, you're going to want to look to Mars. If you have your Mercury in Taurus or Libra, you're going to want to look to Venus and see what Venus is doing in that chart, because Mercury, once again, is filtered through that experience of that planet. And so in this video, it's obviously going to be Mercury in Leo, so it's going to be filtered through the Sun. So the Sun's either going to be in Cancer, Leo, or Virgo with this Mercury placement, but in general, I want you to look at your Mercury placement. If it's not in Leo and it's in the 5th house, look to see at what planets ruling that Mercury for like more ideas of what specifically is being affected and how things are kind of being layered. So there's a lot of different things within astrology. This is only like one of the beginning layers of things, and I'm really excited to do this series. Mercury is quite interesting. Leo week has been very, very interesting for sure, and I think there's so many different things to be said on this specific placement, Mercury in the 5th house and Mercury in Leo. So without further ado, let's start off right off the bat with Mercury in Leo. Okay, so Mercury in Leo has a very bright way of communicating, because Leo is the sun. It's how we have to show our light, show our enthusiasm, show our inspiration, and really just share ourselves and share our joy with people. So Mercury in Leo has a lot of power around their voice, around being seen for their opinions, for who they are. It's very bright. Now, when it comes to Mercury in Leo, we do also have a lot of people that are artists, that are creatives, that are people that are going to speak very highly on themselves or really understand the world through their lens, which everybody does. But Mercury in Leo really, really focuses upon their own story, how it's affecting them, their ego, their identity, their branding, their sort of perspective on things, their way of life, right? What gives them life, what lights them up, is a lot of what Mercury in Leo tends to speak on. So there's a wide range of things that can be of value to a Mercury in Leo, especially based off the planet, house and aspect and things like that. But for the most part, Mercury in Leo really does want to just spread joy with its words, spread artistic quality and enthusiasm and optimism and positivity, because Leo rules that heart. It rules that heart-centered. It rules the area of us that is really all about us and all about our own creativity and our own joy. So Mercury in Leo really does want us to really speak to that part, and speak and share our heart, our joy, our enthusiasm. Now, Mercury in Leo can also be really great creative writers, because a lot of the Leo archetype, as well as the 5th house archetype, are a lot about connecting to children and connecting to children and childlike related inner child sort of things. So there's a lot of communicators around children with Mercury and Leo, and they can be very, very creative, very, very positive in how they are speaking on things, but they can also be very geared towards speaking towards children or teaching children or communicating in a very fun, joyful way. So Mercury in Leo typically has more of a joyful focus. I mean, obviously, if you have your Mercury in Leo and there's some difficult aspects to it, especially if there's difficult aspects to your sun, that is where you're going to see a lot of the identity being kind of wrapped into those specific planetary energies. And so Mercury definitely wants you to communicate about your feelings, about who you are, about what you want to say, who you feel yourself to be, right? Your creative energy, your creative focus, right? That's a lot of what Mercury wants to do in Leo, and it's a lot about that creative force behind your words. And the thing about the sun being Leo, it just kind of exists, right? So Mercury in Leo, it just kind of has this vocal quality that just kind of is there, and it just shines, and it just exists. It doesn't really have to worry about being accepted. I mean, just as a standalone, like I said, if you have your sun in aspect to Pluto or Saturn or Jupiter or things like that, it's definitely going to layer more of how you communicate, how you speak, those sorts of things. But Mercury in Leo genuinely has a desire to really, really speak openly about who they are, share from their inner child, their joy, their heart center, whatever lights them up. They really want to share that with the world. And Mercury in Leo is definitely going to be doing that. They're going to want to create something that's really substantial, that's really heartfelt. And so the thing about Leo too, there can also be this aspect of a lot of love with their words. They can be very loving with their words. And the thing with Leo and the sun, and I talk about this throughout a lot of these videos here in Leo week, but it's been the idea that you can deprive your light from something, or deprive your energy of something, and therefore by doing that, it then can show the truth, or it can bring out people's other sides of you when your energy is not involved in it, right? And that's kind of what the Leo archetype and the sun kind of speaks to, is that power to be able to share your light, share your joy, share your optimism, share your energy, because the Leo, the sun, is so bright, so beautiful, so energizing. It's how we give life to so many things, and then to take that away or to communicate differently about something, or to not communicate or not show that you care or not talk to or not direct your mind in this direction can be very, very impactful to those around you. And that's kind of what leads me to the next point, which is about Aquarius, which is the opposite side of Leo, which is all about the other people, the audience, the collective, who is hearing your message, right? Leo is the person on stage, the person that is speaking from their own experience, their own joy, their own heart, their own kind of story is being told. But then Aquarius is that feedback from the audience, that kind of connection to just what is being said around you or about you, and that kind of like feedback that you tend to get, and listening to just people, social media, listening to feedback, comments, things like that. There's a lot of those things that Mercury in Leo, in all Leo placements, need to understand, is there's a natural awareness they need to have of everyone in their audience and who they're talking to and who they're sharing their message to. And that's where I find, as someone who has a lot of Aquarius placements myself, there's a lot of awareness I have towards the group. And so for me, Leo placements can have a little bit more of a difficulty with me, because I am looking so much at how it's being affected by the collective and the group and all those things. And Leo doesn't really care for that. Mercury and Leo is like, I'm going to say what I want to say, this is what I'm going to do. And that's really bright and that's really important. And a lot of the time with Leo placements in general, it's a lot about being the one that shows the truth, or that shows the story, or shows something and exposes something. Especially if Mercury's in Leo and the sun's an aspect to Pluto, you're definitely going to see some exposing of information for sure. But it's a lot about being able to share light, shed light onto something through your words. And there's a lot of power and a lot of responsibility with that. So it's how you utilize your own opinion, your own voice, your own awareness, because Mercury is really wanting you to communicate about things that are centered around you, right? And the thing is everyone thinks the world is centered around them, right? In everyone's world, their world is centered around them. And so you can't really necessarily think that your opinion is all that matters. And that's where the Mercury Leo, the king, kind of can come in. That kind of ego can come in and think that it's better than all these other placements, all these other things, and all these other people. there's other people that also have their own opinions, and that's where there's this kind of knowing when to shine your light, or how to shine your light, or how to share your light, share your opinion in a way that is respectful, that is understanding of other people. But Mercury in Leo overall has such a beautiful story to be told, and it's a lot about shining its light, maybe unapologetically, maybe intentionally, maybe sensitively, right? There's a lot of different ways that Mercury in Leo wants to share itself, and it's very much about, this is how I feel, this is what I feel, this is what I think about, this is what I want to do. And Mercury here really, really wants this person in particular to just really stay focused and speak on their own truth and their own light, and share that light with others, because that is how you really bring inspiration to people, through your words. When Mercury is in a fire sign, but more importantly in that Leo sign there, and it comes from you living from your heart and having the joy behind what you're doing, and uplifting through positivity with Mercury and Leo, as opposed to taking it personally from an egocentric perspective, as the Leo can tend to do. So listen to your audience, listen to your people. Mercury and Leo is all about that, and all about living from that joy, living from that heart, and enjoy yourself when you're talking. Make sure you're having fun while you're communicating and writing, and lean into creative endeavors, lean into creative things. And also, to Mercury and Leo, I meant to mention this, can be someone, this is also Mercury in the 5th too, can be someone that is connected to gambling, speculation, and markets, and being able to kind of work with those things and have a quick mind around those things. More Mercury in the 5th than Mercury in Leo, but just worth mentioning as well. So just so you know, Mercury in Leo, just make sure you guys are sharing your light, sharing your story, sharing your optimism, because there is something to say about you being able to shine up and show the world what lights you up, and in turn what will then light up others. So that's it for Mercury and Leo. I'll see you guys in the next part, where we talk about what Mercury means in the 5th house. Okay, so we have Mercury in the 5th house. Now, Mercury here, like I had said a little bit earlier, this can definitely lean towards markets, and learning how to work with markets, because Mercury rules trade, and in a very good position, like in Virgo, Libra, or even Aquarius, can have a very positive effect on one's ability to gamble and to work within speculatory industries. So think of anything regarding games, anything regarding betting, anything regarding market calculations. You can see that a lot with especially Mercury and Virgo in the 5th. But Mercury in the 5th house in general is a lot about the mind being brought into areas of romance, speculation, fun, enjoyment, and childhood, and childlike joyous things, and art and artistry, and romance, and creative endeavors, things like that. So when there's a planet in the 5th house, it's all about that creative process, right? Leo has this same sort of focus as well, but the 5th house has a little bit more of a specifically centered version around birthing something, bringing something through your own creativity, your own joy, your own inspiration. That's kind of what the 5th house in general kind of centers around, is the ability to have fun, enjoy yourself, and live from that space and create from that space. That's why it rules creativity. It rules all things that are artistic, all things that are expressive, all things that are being birthed from something in a creative way, right? There's a lot of indicators in the 5th house that are connected to children and childbirth, and when Mercury is here, there can be a focus upon having a conversation around childbirth, around children in that regard. With Mercury in the 5th house too, you are going to have your sun in the bottom half of that chart there, so either in the 4th, 5th, or 6th house, you're going to have those things. So there is going to be more of a quieter type of person, meaning someone who is a nocturnal individual, where their sun sign isn't going to necessarily be super prominent, and their moon sign is more important. So if you have your Mercury in the 5th house, look to your moon sign, because there is going to be some prominence there of connection as well. So anywho, but Mercury in the 5th, it really does bring the mind towards things that are fun, that are joyous, that are just going to light you up and light up others. And so you could see a lot of people here that are great, like I said, with markets, meaning trading stocks, things like that, day trading. See people that are really great crafts people. You can see that a lot with Mercury in Gemini. Just a strong Mercury in general is going to be really quick with their mind and want to utilize their hands and their own ability to discern and understand the world. They're going to use that to their advantage, right? So Mercury in the 5th can definitely have a lot of creative endeavors, things they're creating with their hands, with their words. Quite literally, they will actually be creating things with their own hands. And a lot of the time, like I said, Mercury and Leo, Mercury 5th housers, I see that a lot with people that make jewelry, that make lanyards, or that make candles, or that make soaps. There's a lot of those things with Mercury in that fifth house about creating something through your mind, through your own hands, through your own efforts that are related to your nervous system, right? And so Mercury in the fifth too, there is also a lot about regulating one's heart, working with one's heart, working with one's heart rate. So there's a benefit with Mercury in the fifth. I don't typically go into like health related things, but there can be something in regards to Mercury in the fifth house to regulating one's blood pressure or one's awareness of one's heart rate, and kind of being able to really be aware of that. And in the same vein, being aware of what lights you up and what makes your heart race in a more like emotional regard as well, and being able to bring that out and say, this is what I really love, this is what I really enjoy, this is what I really want to do with my life, and communicate that, right? And so Mercury in the fifth house has a lot of different ways that it can be played, right? And so I really want you to look to see what your Mercury placement is in the fifth house, because it can play out a lot of different ways. And it's also important to see what that ruler of that Mercury placement is. So if Mercury is in, the sign of Libra, right? But Venus is, somewhere else in the chart, it's important to see what Mercury is looking to do in that specific sign in the fifth house. Because Mercury in the fifth house in general is going to want to create something. It's going to want to birth something. And so looking to see what Mercury is doing within that chart is really, really important, as well as looking to see what the dispositor or the ruler of that Mercury is doing. So Mercury in fire, we have Aries, Leo, and Sag. This is a really interesting one because Mercury in a fire sign in a fire house is going to be really, really transformative, really lit up by what they're doing. They're going to really want to inspire and kind of bring a lot of energy to what they're doing. Mercury in Aries, I did a whole video on that. Feel free to check that out. But Mercury in Aries in the fifth has a specific energy around kind of debating or fighting for either their own inner child, children's rights. There can be advocacy things here with Mercury and Aries in that fifth house there. But it's a lot about being able to be the one to create something new and to go into something new and fight for something new in that regard. This is where you'll see there is definitely some impulsivity here with Aries in that fifth house, but Mercury in Aries as well, there's an impulsive mind. So there is definitely a need to bring that back and really, really rein in the sort of impulsive words with Mercury and Aries in that fifth house, and really speaking kindly to yourself. Because when you have Mercury in Aries in a Martian sign, you're going to want to do more Venusian things to kind of mitigate that. So meaning being more kind with your words, knowing when to be kind with your words, knowing when to be more, kind of regulated, right, with who you're talking to. Find peace in that regard, because Mercury and Aries in the fifth is trying to fight something, and whether it's moving forward, trying to progress themselves, go after their own goals. Mercury in the fifth in Aries definitely wants to do that. Mercury and Leo in the fifth, there's a lot of stuff there, kind of doubling up on the whole inner child creativity thing. Mercury and Leo I just did earlier, obviously, so check that out too. So there's a lot of significations of that fifth house that are doubled up in there. So you'll see a lot more specific artists, people that are very, very focused in on that inner child work and those sorts of things, and really being creative and really birthing something new, bringing something new to fruition there through their mind and through their words. So you'll see a lot of lyricists with Mercury and Leo in the fifth. Mercury and Sag in the fifth has a way more philosopher's kind of standpoint. This is where Mercury doesn't do that well. It's one of my Mercury placements, but it is something that really, really has a larger than life perspective. So it really is about teaching children, understand. It's more perspective on children, or it's perspective on creative endeavors. So there could be a lot of things they want to create, but it's about finding and following that faith and that inspiration, and following maybe the disjointedness of their creativity and finding a new way to bring in something newly created, kind of merging different areas, right? You can see that a lot with Mercury and Fire and Sag in that fifth house. And Mercury and Fire in general is going to want to inspire something, bring something out. So there are going to be these aspects of Mercury and Fire in the fifth that is really inspirational with their words. Mercury and Fire in general has that quality wherever it sits, but Mercury and Fire in the fifth is a lot about bringing that inspiration into creative endeavors, into creative people. So all these fire sign Mercuries in the fifth can be creative coaches, can be directors of things, directors of artists and really helping guide them and really bringing that light and giving that light to them. So that's a really positive thing with Mercury and fire in the 5th house. This really great for coaches and people that are really wanting to bring their fire and push it into someone else and then help motivate them. So it's a lot of motivational things you can see with Mercury and a fire sign. Mercury and Earth, so we have Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. This one has a little bit more of a slower quality, right? Mercury does really well in Virgo, obviously, and in Taurus and Capricorn it also does a little bit well, but it's very much about bringing into reality, bringing into groundedness, bringing into routine, bringing into something that has substantiality or something that has substance and is going to lack impulsivity and is going to really work over time. And so Mercury in Taurus is a Venusian rule sign, so much like what I had said with Mercury and Aries in the 5th, do more things that are more inspirational, that are more impulsive, as opposed to just really trying to keep that status quo with Mercury and Taurus and protecting one's assets. This one, all the Taurus 5th housers, myself included, but those that have planets in Taurus in that 5th house, it's a lot about really being creative, really having interesting relationships with gambling and speculation and markets, and just games and gaming and those things. There's a lot of things with Mercury Taurus, or just Taurus placements in the 5th, like I said, that can really speak to one's finances and spend a lot of money on fun things. And so Mercury here can have, they can make a lot of money. Mercury and Earth signs in general can make a lot of money through their words, but Mercury and Earth in the 5th house is really going to create someone who can make a lot of money through like managing, a club, right? Managing a club, managing a restaurant, a bar, a dance club of some sort, being able to really make money off of the organizational or business aspect of clubs and or spaces like that. I know someone who actually has a lot of Taurus placements in that 5th house, and that's actually one of his goals, is to work within that network and kind of build, a creative kind of like a clubbing sort of atmosphere. So really interesting with Mercury and Taurus in the 5th. Now, Mercury in Virgo, like I said, there's a lot of like working revolved around this. This is where you could have a lot of pediatricians, people that are doctors. I kind of say this most times with Virgo in that 5th house has like pediatrician energy, or being able to really improve one's kind of inner child work. So think of this as someone who's like an art critic, right? And is able to write up a lot of different creative, articles about, art or food, especially if like Mercury's in Taurus or Virgo, but more so Virgo in that 5th house. There's a lot of like creative stuff through one's critical nature and one's ability to be precise and organized. And then Mercury and Capricorn definitely have that business mindset, definitely have that long-standing kind of responsibility around their words that is kind of brought into that. So there is this sense of responsibility that's required of Mercury in Capricorn. In that 5th house, Mercury and Capricorn in general just requires responsibility and time and patience. So it's about being patient with one's own, birthing process of what your voice is, right? Capricorn in the 5th just really needs that. They need to have some sort of patience with them becoming and owning themselves and speaking up for themselves, and being able to kind of really be that empowered person that they really want to be. And then Mercury and air, obviously Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius, these all kind of have a lot of benefit because they're in an air sign. Mercury rules kind of communication, and air is this like mental quality, mental element. And so Mercury in air, in Gemini obviously does really well. It's at home here, so it's going to have a lot of things to say, a lot of things to talk about. This is a lot of where you'll see the teachers, the kind of the childhood teachers, the ones that are really working within those spaces and have a really fast mind, and being able to connect to one's creative process or just kind of fostering that, and navigating those things. So there could be, all of these actually have like, Mercury in the 5th in general has like a potentiality, more with Mercury and water, but Mercury and air in the 5th has a potentiality for, childhood therapists as well. Mercury and Libra especially, relational therapists. Mercury and Aquarius has more of like that child advocate thing that I've kind of been speaking about here, where there's a lot of kind of awareness of what their role is within a group and how that is being affected. And so you'll see that a lot with Libra risings in general. When Mercury's in the opposite house, there's a lot of things that are being brought into communication and brought into kind of bridging those two areas a lot. But yeah, there's a lot here. There's a lot here, and I'm not going to go into every single one in depth because if I did, it would take so long. That's why I kind of graze over them a little bit. And then obviously I have those bigger videos where you can check those things out. Mercury and Gemini I've already done, obviously, so check that out. Mercury and Libra will be coming up, and same Mercury and Aquarius. But and then Mercury in water signs, so Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. These are the way more intuitive ones. These are the ones that are like the childhood, or the ones that are able to assist with potential mediumship of children or missing children, helping protect and communicate about the sensitivity of children's emotions and things of that nature. So Mercury in a water sign definitely has that emotional sensitivity to really being and speaking towards one's feelings and one's emotions. And so Mercury in a water sign definitely has a more of a psychicness to it, more of an intuitiveness to it. Mercury in Scorpio definitely needs to protect itself and protect its own positioning or its own trauma, because a lot of Scorpio placements have so much trauma they have to learn through. And when Mercury's in the 5th house in Scorpio, there is going to be a interesting trauma around their communication that needs to be brought up. They need to be heard. They need to be seen for who they are and what they want to say. And so Mercury in Scorpio in that 5th definitely has some disempowerment around their words and around who they are and how those words impact who they are and how they share who they are. And there might be times they felt like they shared who they were and it was being muted, right? Or it was being not heard, right? And then Mercury in Pisces definitely has more of a lost quality to it. But really creative. This is a really, really creative placement when they're able to find ways to communicate who they are through their art. And Mercury in Cancer has that same way, but there's a lot of sensitivity here, a lot about them feeling their feelings, going into their own kind of energy, their own focuses, stuff like that. So yeah, Mercury in the 5th has lots of different things to bring up around communication, around different talking points, obviously, around genuinely just speaking around one's inner child, one's joy, bringing that out, birthing something new, creating something new, the creative process, and speaking about that, and understanding that process, understanding that your mind is really what's helping you create something, and you can't rush creativity, you can't rush joy, you can't rush romance, you can't rush any sort of optimism or healing that comes from the 5th house, and you need to see things through to the fullest extent that they can be, and take your time with creating, with birthing something, with becoming a new person, with figuring out who you are, with expressing who you are. Be patient with that process as it kind of takes time, and you learn over and over again who you are, what you want to create, what is fun for you, what is joyous for you, right? Your mind is able to tell you how to find ways to really bring out that joy and really express itself in a very positive way. So I love Mercury in general. Mercury's a very interesting energy. It's very, very chatty, very all over the place. And obviously, if you have your Mercury in Leo, Mercury in the 5th house, I'd love to hear how this video was for you. And if, of course, if you want any readings with me, my website's down below. And of course, the playlist is down below for all these videos as they come out. So make sure to subscribe to that as well, so that you can kind of check out those things when they come out, especially if you have any placements after Leo or the 5th house that you want to kind of learn about. So thank you so much for being here today. I'm really excited to be doing this series. I love you guys. And thanks again, and I'll see you guys soon.